Welcome to the Road is Dead podcast, episode 83. My name is Rob Curtis. I'm your host. Joined here in the studio today with
Leah Sandah,
Tim Strelecki,
Barron Gira,
and Barron back with us. Barron, if you're a longtime listener back on the old audio-only version, Barron's been with us off and on over the years, and we somehow talked him back into spending an hour with us. Well, probably won't see him again for another 6 months, but, you know, it's kind of like a groundhog in that way. It's going to be more winter. Is it how that's a groundhog, right?
Yeah, it is.
Is it the whole premise of Groundhog Day? Yeah. You know, the race that I put on with that whole theme and everything.
Yeah,
don't really understand it, but you know,
it was a good movie. That's how we know.
Right, yeah, it was a good movie.
It was.
For those who don't know, we put on a cyclocross race in the town of Woodstock, Illinois, which is where the movie was shot back in the prehistoric days for most of you. But Bill Murray, odds of him coming back to Woodstock, slim to none. But it would be cool if he crashed our race someday.
Should work on that. I bet he would come.
You know, I thought that for a lot of years. And Julie, my wife, Julie, spent a lot of time like trying to find him on social media and like throw out these little like hooks to see if there were any nibbles or anything. Nothing. And then it dawned on me the other day. I was like, why in the hell would he ever? I mean, yeah, it'd be cool, but it's cool through our lens, you know?
Yeah, but he's a quirky guy, and cyclocross is quirky.
Oh, exactly. We know that.
Chicago
but think about the reality of it, though. Think about the reality of it, though. It's kind of like people that come up to me and go, it'd be really cool if you put on a brand new race that had this kind of format and involved these people. And it's like, yeah, no, it sounds like a cool idea, and I understand what you thought of me, but.
Just tell him you need him for 5 minutes to start the Cat 4-5 race.
Zero upside in it for him.
Yeah, absolutely none. It's. Yeah. I mean, we can't even like pay him. You know, it's not like we'd be
free
like,
beer.
"Hey, dude, show up."
Yeah, exactly. Free beer. Oh wait, you don't have a beer sponsor anymore.
You know what we could do is we could call him up and be like, "Hey, Chevy Chase said that he was going to come out and do this."
He's probably heard that a million times.
You go, yeah, he wouldn't care.
Oh no, he'd be like, "Oh fuck him, I'll go out and do
that guy's a dick.
You know, he hates him. Can't stand him." But
I didn't know that.
Anyway, he is a Chicago native.
Yeah.
Does he still have a house here? I think he does.
I don't know.
He'll show up here every now and then. He goes watches the Cubs all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, bikes. What were we talking about?
Groundhogs.
I'm looking at you.
Oh, me. Well, I know you wanted to talk about SRAM's new release.
Yeah. So, yesterday, SRAM made it finally official. I say finally because we've alluded to it on the podcast here before, but there were a lot of spy shots that made it out over the preceding months. But SRAM has an update to its SRAM. What did I say?
Force AXS.
Force AXS. I felt like I just messed that up, but forced.
That was forced.
That was forced. Force AXS has an update to it, and kind of some interesting things in there. I'm going to talk about it in a positive way. That's more me psyching myself up.
As you should.
Rob. Good changes.
Rob.
Good changes.
Okay.
Good changes.
Hopefully in the brakes.
Actually, yes. That's actually a really good point. They did make it a point to say that they redesigned the lip seals on the pistons.
Wow.
To help. I forget how they phrased it, but it was like consultant 101. Like, you know, they were like, so how do we tell all these mechanics that we finally fixed the problems that have been plaguing our brakes since day one?
They'll stop.
And they go, well, could you describe it? And they're like, well, yeah, the pistons just stick and then they don't retract correctly. It's, you've improved the dynamic function of the pistons, dynamic moving, and to help with retraction, you know, and that's something along the lines of what they said. So in essence, they admitted that, they suck, and we've kind of fixed it. Time will tell.
Currently experiencing said drama or dilemma with the pistons in my own personal experience.
Yeah. I've had to fix yours.
Yep.
I fixed mine. One of my most viewed videos that I have out on my YouTube channel, Simet YouTube channel. Go out and find it. And
you tagged them.
Right? They got back to me and talked to me a little bit about it, but it's a video where I talk about how to go in and stroke out those pistons and lube everything so that the pistons actually function the way that they're supposed to. So, and the master cylinders as well too. So all in all, really good video, get a ton of views from it. And I still get comments about it to this day. Anthony filmed it with a really shaky hand. I don't know if he just had the shakes that day or what, but
excited.
and we don't have any edit. I mean, at that point, we didn't have any editing software or anything else like that. So, and I think he did it on my phone. So it was like, and it's moving around. Like, I mean, if I watch it, I get seasick. I do not, I feel sorry for anybody that has to watch it to actually try to learn something. But everything that we covered in that is still pertinent to this day. But an ongoing issue. Supposedly, I had heard feedback that they improved this in the rival access version that they just released not too long ago. I say just released, it's probably 2 years. But they have obviously carried it over to Force level at this point. So an improvement there, good thing to hear. If they can really get out of their way on the brake front and get some good working brakes, they got something going. They also made a lot of changes to the cranks. They got off of, apparently, the Force AXS large chainring has like this plastic integration in the outside chainring. And there's a lot of people that complain about cracking it. I would say from personal experience, I have a lot of experience with them cracking, but quite honestly, most of the people I work with are racing or high performance and they don't buy new shit. So we're working on the existing stuff. So it's going to be a couple more years before I really have to work through all of those kind of issues. I don't work on brand new bikes hardly. So we're always like getting things working in reality. And so they've changed the chain rings. They've changed the spider. They integrated the chain rings into the spider, and they've done it with, and it's not just direct mount. They've done it for like the power meter.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the red one that they had when they did the last introduction, which means when your chain rings wear out,
so is your power meter.
You don't have a power meter anymore. You have to buy another one.
By design.
By design. By design.
Exactly.
I believe they on the red level you could trade them in. And apparently on this one, I don't believe you can trade them in, or if you can, it's only like $100 credit instead of, I think it was a lot more. It was like a 50% credit on red, and I think it's only like a 10% credit or something. I don't know.
Is there the option for a spindle-based power?
There
meter?
is. I
heard that.
Yeah. So if you're running the one-by system, they have a left arm one that they had before that is now compatible with Force. I think it was compatible with Rival.
Yeah, I think they introduced it on the Rival and brought it over.
Now it's compatible with Force. It's a left-sided / spindle-based power meter. Not as accurate, but it's an option for, in my opinion, I'm the one saying that. I don't have any data behind that. It is an option if you want to run one by, is the big thing. So the power meter options that they have are all 2x, which is one of the big things that they led with.
Yeah.
They led with the fact that it was just like 2x, 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 2x. Everything was about 2x. They did make some changes on the levers to make them more ergonomic, but, whatever.
I think that's huge because that's, one of the main contacts of your bike and a way you can achieve comfort. And if it's a big, bulky hood, for a guy like me that has small hands, it's going to be uncomfortable. So I like that they took some material away to bring the hood closer to you. They got rid of the adjustment port up at the top. They changed the size of the paddle to give you more ability to shift, when you're in the drops. So I think for me, from my perspective, I think that's a good thing. I like that.
I can see your point.
Yeah.
And maybe if I rode more, I would probably agree. But,
Crickets.
So so I typically don't look at the ergonomics. I do say that, I love the Shimano GRX.
Yep.
I always love the ergonomics of the SRAM.
On ETAP.
On ETAP, yeah. That's
and you rode first generation.
I rode first generation for a long
went
time.
from mechanical and then into ETAP, but I didn't have hydraulic.
Right, you were rim brake.
That's
right. That's right.
That actually, I loved that whole setup because I had the exact same thing, ETAP rim brake, and those hoods were dynamite.
Yeah, totally.
It's interesting. I mean, I've never really had a problem with SRAM ergonomics, me personally. Like I'm thinking about the big ones with the big peaks on them that I
yeah,
rode a lot for
originals.
CX1s
Yeah.
and all that. I actually liked those, and they were comfortable
Yeah, no.
for me. But I've also got meat closets, the only physical trait that I have.
No, that's right. I did have that on my cyclocross bike. I had the SRAM hydraulic, and I always liked it. I never liked Shimano's hoods ergonomically until now. Now
They're
but
great.
You're on. Oh no, you've got the 12-speed Ultegra now. So are you talking about those, or are you talking about your GRX ones?
Both.
Okay. Interesting. You've only got a few rides on that Ultegra 12-speed.
Yeah, I've got a good handful or more of rides on it. So far, so good.
Except for the power meter,
Except for the power meter issue.
which,
Yeah.
for those that didn't see, DC Rainmaker came out with a study. They were looking at the accuracy of the Shimano power meters and basically just so. And she had just gotten one and put it on her bike. So if anybody's looking for a very mildly used power meter that's mostly
inaccurate.
mostly accurate, as long as you're
Plus
not
or
in the
minus
small ring.
10.
Is it that off? How well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So apparently,
To your favor?
no.
Wouldn't that be
Well,
good?
yeah. Actually, when you're in the small chain ring, your readings
Yeah.
will be, what is it, 15%? Or it was like
It's
15
like
to 20
10
watts
10 to,
high.
yeah.
In the big chain ring, it's tracks pretty well, but in the big and maybe even in the small, if you're like doing sprints, you'll lose as much as 300 watts of peak power.
So it's
And
sampling.
reporting.
It's something
and-
about the sampling with
yeah,
it.
and when you
it's not getting
stop pedaling, your power should go to zero, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It just
Just keeps
kind of keeps
Because of the
feeding.
motor in your bike.
So it's just like it's a big deal.
e-bike integration.
And these are crank arm power meters, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
they're spindle based or not
crank
spider
arm.
based. Yeah,
But it's
Crank
one.
arm.
It's spider and
only
crank
one
arm.
side.
What's that?
There's one crank arm.
it's
It's both.
It's a two-sided.
It's
I
a
think.
spider,
It's
a
two-sided.
spider on the drive,
Got
and cranker.
Got it.
Yeah. So I am like, that's going to drive me batty, as Rob knows. So I went with going with a different option for my crank.
so we went out and got one
You don't want to name it?
rotor.
Rotor.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
which I've always run rotor cranks and rotor power for everything and love their cranks. I mean, just a super fan. And I would have gone that route going on.
There we are.
And we're back to recording apparently.
Sorry about that, folks.
All the I want to thank Riverside FM for their absolutely spotless ability to put a podcast together.
Hey, it's technology. It's bound to fail at some point.
Yep. So yeah, that's SRAM.
Oh, you want to talk about the gearing?
Gearing.
The gearing's pretty big.
So they actually
Yeah.
went back to real sized large gearing and road based gearing. And they started it all with the 2x discussion.
Yes, they did.
So it's kind of like, Anyway, wonder what they're saying with that. Cassette wise, they got smaller options.
Yeah, they now have, I think, a 1028 offering, which I think standard smallest was 1033. And then
1030 or 1033.
1030
yeah.
or 1033, and then up from there. But now they have different options available as well.
And they have ring options all over the place. And on their 1x setup, they have ring options, I want to say up to 50 at this point. So I could be wrong on that. You might want to check your details if you're interested, but interesting changes. Do you know what the coolest part about that launch was yesterday, though?
What's that?
They have a 4-port battery charger now.
Mm.
A one-piece thing.
Fantastic. All right.
You can charge 4 batteries at the same time.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like it's one thing that's a four
You know
position
what
charger.
that's for? That's for the mountain bikers that have 6 batteries on their bikes.
That's where when he was talking about it, he's like, yeah, well, if you think about it, you've got one in your dropper, you got one in the rear derailleur, you got one for this, you got one for that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, I know it adds up quick. Not to mention the fact that, let's face it, most people that ride with ETAP ride with an extra battery.
You know what's funny? That's gonna come extra. You have to buy that port. It's not gonna come with anything. Like,
Oh yeah, no, you do have.
I don't even
now,
think
yeah.
I don't even think your setup now comes with a
No, it
battery
doesn't.
charger.
It doesn't. I was
Not
able to.
included.
I was able to get a nice package together for the last person I got it, and it included the charger.
Oh, that's nice.
But even then, I still got to buy an extra battery because
Yep.
let's face it,
Yep.
you got to run an extra battery.
Mm-hmm.
at least if you have experience with it, you know you have to run an extra battery or bring one with you.
They're good to have on hand for sure.
You know, I mean, if you just get in the habit of throwing your battery on the charger every week or something.
Oh,
like
I'm
that,
not.
then it's not an issue.
I'm
but,
not saying
nobody wants to do that.
It's built into the system incorrectly. I'm saying that rider habits are
Yes.
such that it necessitates bringing an extra battery or having one around.
If you know that you're the kind of person that's not going to be diligent in paying attention to your battery life. Then,
So like everyone we know.
Yeah.
Not this guy.
Most people just want to ride their bike.
I'm obsessive about that stuff. Or at least the SRAM battery.
Well, and even if you do pay attention, sometimes it's kind of bit me in the ass where my bike has been sitting in the back of my car running around with me, and I just get it out of the car, and it's like, oh shit, my battery's dead because it's been.
I'm afraid
activated.
with going to Di2 now that I'm going to forget to charge that.
But that doesn't activate,
and it doesn't. No, it doesn't activate until you actually hit the buttons because it's hardwired.
Right.
Oh.
So
and
you're not gonna.
The big drain on the SRAM side is that it's wireless, and so it has to wake up and look for a signal, and it has accelerometers. I believe this is my understanding.
Unless they've changed something with it, I don't know. That's the way it used to be. So
for those of you listening or watching, pardon my ineptitude on the technical beep boops of all this stuff. I'm learning.
You like the boop?
I just ride the bike. That's all I do.
So good launch from them. Like I said, though, it's interesting that they really pushed the whole 2x deal.
They did.
We're really talking about it. They led with that.
I mean, I think that's a good thing. I personally, after having ridden the original Force AXS now for over 3 years and trying to figure out the gearing with 12 speed and trying to get it right to where I felt comfortable with it, I think it's good that they're introducing 2x. I still prefer 2x as a rider. It just gives you more options. Because I'm certainly not putting a 1056 in the rear. Yeah. Nor do we have the terrain for that out here, so it's a moot point.
And I don't care about the steps. There's gaps. There's gaps in there. To listen to these guys talk about, well, you got single steps and this. And listen, if you ride it, there's gaps. In order to cover the whole range, there's just gaps.
Yeah.
Right.
In addition to that, though, their 2-ring large side, you used to only be able to get up to a 48 as a regular stock option.
Yeah.
I think they had larger ones for the Pro Tour level or at the red level.
Oh, those guys they can get
they can get whatever they want. But they then, with this launch, they announced a 5036, I want to say. 50. It's either 5036 or some oddball like 5035. So they actually went back to a decent sized gear.
Yeah.
They made it smaller in the back. They made it bigger in the front. They added 2 chain rings. It's almost like they rediscovered what we've been doing.
You know, here. Yeah, exactly. I think you're right. But you know what? I think what's happening? Gravel racers want to go faster.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to 2x and they want to go faster because gravel racing is getting more competitive.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the start of 1x cross drove a lot of that.
I would like to think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Remember the time in that? Remember all the the retrofitting we were doing with the railers to keep the thing from jumping?
Yep.
Well, yeah, and that was all because of all the issues of dropping chains on 2x systems and poor and mechanical shifting and.
So cross.
So 1x was a solution. Everybody thought was going to be this great solution, but then you ended up with these huge cassette ranges that were just awkward.
Right.
So I went back to 2x for my cross setup because I use it for cross and I use it for gravel, and it's so much better.
And you have access.
But it's now I actually went Shimano GRX on it, and it's electronic, so it's
you won't have
shifts perfectly. Right? Yeah, and you have still has a clutch rear derailleur, so you don't have your chain bouncing all over the place like you used to, and it was a good solution. So it's good to see that SRAM's come in that direction, honestly.
To your point, that development was really pushed by the cyclocross side initially, but I don't want to really say initially because if you think about it, it really started over on the mountain bike side. Everybody started going 1x with everything on the mountain bike side. Down from the triple era,
Let's take 2 away and just have
one. It's
I still have a triple.
It's quite interesting.
Mountain bike.
Right, exactly.
The more I talk to specific mountain bikers, the more they're some of the ones that are racing and they're doing a lot of climbing in certain areas, a lot of them are starting to go back to like a 2x setup because they really need the gearing range to be able to climb like that. Now, all of this implies that we're heading back towards 2x. We're heading back towards this. We're heading back towards that. Why did we go 1x in the first place? Because of chain drops. We keep covering this on this podcast, but it's timely. It was because of the chain drops, at least in the cross side. And really, why would SRAM really get behind all of this, especially on the road side? Do everybody remember what was happening at the time with them on the road side with 2x?
Their
front shifts.
Front shifting was awful.
Their front shifting was horrible, and they were dropping chains, in very inopportune moments during the Tour de France, things like that. And they can blame the mechanics all they want. They can blame the rider all they want. But the reality is it wasn't necessarily happening. It didn't seem to be happening on the Shimano side as much. Definitely wasn't happening on the Campy side as much.
Yeah, I think, as they had that stuff in the World Tour and they got more reputable and successful teams under their equipment, they could probably have more rider feedback and dial those things in to make them as good as they are now.
Oh, I won't say that they aren't better at it.
Yeah.
They're definitely better at it.
Yeah, for sure.
But, to your point of your old setup, ETAP, when you were running oval rings, all the jumping around that we had to do with like rotor spacers and stuff to get the derailleur in the position where it actually function and not drop the chain.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're joined by Mike Friedman.
I'm here.
Hi, Mike.
I'm here.
What's going on, Mike? Looking dapper.
It's a nice studio.
Well, thanks, man. All the compliments. Yeah, thanks a lot. Feels good to be here already.
You got the whole 70s.
I think we need to upgrade our wardrobes here. Mike's making us look real bad.
There's a turtleneck in my blown out jean jacket vest from Goodwill.
Hey,
and now he's stripping.
Awesome.
Now you're looking
This
good.
is my favorite attire. I actually bought it for Walter. Now I own it.
I'm sorry. Walter's your dog.
Yeah, Walter. Yeah, Walter's my dog. Yeah, when he rides in the motorcycle, he wears. Well, he was going to wear this. Anyways, yes, Walter the dog.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I know.
just made the day a little bit better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Not gonna lie.
I would say that you didn't miss much. We were talking about the new SRAM launch, so yeah.
I have not had time to read anything, which has been a problem for me. It's full gas. Everyone's full gas.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. When the big thing that I was getting at was that they went back to pushing a 2x agenda, and it's because the need is still there.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go with a 1x agenda, we've talked about this a couple times. What's the solution that SRAM should be pursuing if they want to stay on the 1x agenda? Classified.
Yeah.
Classified was in the news again. You guys got to work with me here.
Nice segue.
I got some setups. Classified was in the news again because Victor Campenarts actually field tested it at one of the semi-classics this weekend in Belgium at La Semaine. I think I said that right. I don't know, but it seemed to go off without a hitch. I mean, he made the front group. He was in the break for the majority of the race, and obviously fatigue set in towards the latter stages, and he got popped when the peloton caught. But quite a showing to see it in action, to have the commentators comment on it, and to see the gigantic 60-tooth single front ring that he ran to go along with the system. It's phenomenal to watch someone be able, from my perspective, phenomenal to watch someone be able to push that type of a gear for that long a distance and not blow up sooner. But it's cool to see it in action, really, to be live and in your face and having commentators talk about it, and just to see new technology really working. So I think it was a good use of the technology.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, just hearing about it. Seems like a good use of the technology. Will be interesting. There's a couple other racers that are set up with it.
Yeah, I don't recall who. I think there's one or two females that are on it. I don't know who they are. Obviously, your ambassadors being Boonen and Gilbert, who we've talked about already. But yeah, from what I like to just see it being field tested.
Yeah. And to see it, I mean, maybe you picked the wrong chain ring.
I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to that. I mean, maybe you should have went with a 58. I don't know. I'm sitting in a chair behind a table. And
did you say he had a size 60?
Who knows?
Yeah, 6'0".
Mike, if you can find some images on it, it's from the drive side. It is the craziest looking thing.
So what's the back ratio?
Yeah.
They didn't touch on that. It was too probably hard to tell. I'm sure it was something customized to his liking to go along with that large front chainring,
and with a classified hub.
Yeah.
So he had two selections in there, basically give it a small ring.
And to the best of my knowledge, the classified range is currently only one option. It's 1 to 0.7. So I don't know what kind of cassette he was running with that. On top of that,
let me retire to the nerdery. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you could tell, like I was saying earlier when Rob and I were having a discussion, when they're just rolling in the flats, he had no problems keeping up, taking his pulls. He never missed a pull. He was always strong. But in the latter stages, fatigue started to set in, and there were some punchy climbs toward the end, and you could tell he was struggling with that big front chainring to get on top of the gear to stay with the front guys. But,
so if he was in the small option there and it's a 0.7, that would take him down to a 42. So he had a 60-42 effectively.
I'm sorry, Rob, say that again. Yeah. So on the back end, you can go.
No, on the front end. So on the front end, he just had a 62 chainring. And then in the rear, inside the hub, you've got the classified hub. So it's got two. So
you run a standard cassette on the outside, and the classified hub has its own gear ratio.
Yes.
So you have two. You have your derailleur, your gears, and then the classified hub has its own internal gear shifting mechanism.
As two settings. A planetary gear setup, two settings. So it's like an internally geared hub in a way, but it's only got one other option. So it's at 1.0, and Leah's saying 0.7. If it's 0.7, then he had a 42. So in other words, when he would switch and shift inside the hub, he went from a 60 to front chainring to a 42, effectively.
So the picture I'm looking at, unless this is not the classified hub, unless this is the wrong image, it has a standard cassette on the outside. So what happens when you're riding in, say, the 25, and then you switch to you switch the internal hub? So you have two different ways of shifting. Maybe I'm confused on how this.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically the rear hub shift is taking the place of your front chainring shift. So really, you're just changing from your big range to your small range.
I see.
So that's just replacing your front shift.
It's taking
the rear cassette is no different than it was before. It's
interesting.
The same.
It's fascinating technology.
It's taking the place of the front derailleur, but it's taking the front derailleur out of all the elements that made it bad.
But if he's in a 42 up front, when you're saying he's at a 42, right? When you're riding effectively a 42, but 42 what in the back? 42, 20, 25.
Same range.
Whatever his cassette is, depends on what cassette he had on there.
If the 25 was his largest
42, 25. I see. So, okay. All right.
Even though he's got a 60 chainring on the front.
And he was...
I mean, we don't know what he had on the back, right? We don't know what he had.
Yeah. Was it the first race he's used it? It can't be the first time he's used it. He had to use it in training before racing with it.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure in order to figure out what he wanted to run for the front to decide that he was going to run a 60 tooth, I'm sure he had to develop a level of confidence.
I mean,
I'm sure that's the first time we've seen that 60 tooth, though.
It's like, just throw this on for the race and try it out.
Remco used a 60 tooth in the team time trial.
With him, with Victor Campenarts for this setup. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a previous world hour record holder, you could turn over a 60.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of time.
So, I mean, you can start to see where the options for this technology might actually be really interesting implications. You're effectively adding another derailleur into the system. And by doing that, you're introducing all sorts of other gear options. So if you can...
That's a lot to think about.
Think about if you went back to a 2x in the front. Then you effectively have 4 chain rings. With this system.
Yeah, it's
you
crazy.
No longer have a,
Yeah.
That's what I really like about this. Now, obviously, it gets really complicated very quickly, but I don't know. There's a little company out there, Shimano, who has worked on semi-synchro shifting and synchro shifting, where you define the shift ramps, and all you're doing is going up through the gears, and it will shift the front end as needed. And adding that and adding one more level with the classified hub in creates some interesting scenarios in my mind.
Yeah.
It gives you a huge range, and yet we can get back to the very efficient and very large chain rings, smaller cogs, heavy gear potential, flipped around with then having the deep range to climb pretty much whatever you want to climb.
So what do you shift? What do you?
I don't know. That's why I find it
Is
so
there like
interesting.
a secondary classified shifter? Like you shift your regular cassette,
Right? Yeah, right. Yeah. So right now, to my understanding and what I read is there's basically a button that you mount somewhere. You have to figure out where you want to mount it, and that shifts the rear hub. There is the ability, to my understanding, to I guess it's a hack, but you can connect it up and marry it up with like a Shimano Di2. So where your normal front chainring shift would be, you can make it compatible with that. But to my understanding, it does not do that with SRAM. So if you're running SRAM, you would have to have a separate location for the button. And
SRAM's got, in the new introduction, we did skip that. They did have new wireless blips that they introduced.
So I don't know. So I think that was just sort of like, if you're running multiple positions with your hands, you're going to have to figure out where you're most likely to want to have that button. So yeah, it's a separate shift mechanism, unless you're running Di2, I guess.
It'd be really interesting because if you could hook that up to the tops, the buttons on the tops of the hoods,
Use your thumbs.
you can use your thumbs to go up or down with that.
Right. And then one of the complaints on it was that there was no way to know which range you're in, because it was just like the button, you just push it and it goes from one to the other. And it's like, if you don't know, it's like, let's hope.
You just got to go
I
off.
think I'm in my small range.
Just go off
and
a
it's like,
feel.
oh shit,
Well, but the thing is, okay, so right now it's just a button and it just
Right.
shifts if you hit that button.
Yeah.
But if there was a way to put it into the tops of the Shimano, they've got buttons on each side.
Yeah.
And you say that one's easier, that one's harder.
Yeah.
Remember when they used to?
Then it would be.
Sorry. No. I interrupted. You guys started talking first. Go ahead. I'll hold the thought.
All I was going to say is someone will figure it out.
Well, I mean, with Di2, you have two buttons to upshift and down.
You got
so
two buttons.
You know which way you're going.
And then you've got the two on top. And isn't there another on some? No,
I mean,
maybe not. I was thinking there was a button on the inside, but that would be friggin' flight deck. You guys
which was
remember that?
awesome.
Hey.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Hey.
But here's the thing: like, this is all just to get rid of the front derailleur, right?
Essentially.
So instead of
Yeah.
lighter
instead
weight.
of looking down now between your legs to see if your chain is in the little ring or the big ring, like you have to be like, oh,
We couldn't hear you. We couldn't hear you. Sorry, we
You
went
dropped
out.
out.
all right. Well,
Yeah, so you used to be able to just like look.
Yeah,
down,
you could
right,
look
to
down and
if
see,
you're
oh,
right,
I'm in
and
a-
now you can't.
now you're like, oh
don't.
shit,
Right.
what light is on? What does that light mean?
Yeah. So now they, if they're gonna
Right.
if they're gonna have this separate switch, they probably need to go to some sort of a toggle so you can visually see which range.
I
You're
mean, the
in.
UCI regulated size, so yeah. I mean,
Yeah. You gotta think there'll be some regulation of it.
No,
in some way, shape, or form.
all classified users are going to have it in their glasses lens.
Oh,
Heads-up displays.
Yeah, heads up display in your glasses lens.
And then we bypass all this at some point and just have a continuously variable transmission in some way.
Yeah.
I have a
Either way, I think it's
I have
cool
a quick
technology.
question.
The buttons will double as an on button for the motor.
Oh,
too,
yeah?
by the way.
You have to turn it on.
No,
I mean,
saying
that's
for
actually
the
another
motor you
question.
have
Is it
when you're
mechanical or is there an electric servo
motor doping?
for the classified hub?
They're both.
it's in the skewer, right?
Yes. So there is a. I don't necessarily. I mean, technically, you would call it a solenoid, but it's a solenoid that achieves the shift. But the shift is it's a planetary gear carrier, to my knowledge, that basically jumps between ratios. So kind of like in a way, like a Sturmey Archer, I guess would be a good way of maybe a good analogy, maybe not. Someone with more experience with it could feel free to write in. Email at roadisdead@gmail.com.
I wonder how neutral race support will handle that.
That would be really interesting because neutral race support has gotten so difficult over the years, and we've seen it fall off to the point where we just got news that NRS technically, I forget the formal name of the company, but NRS, the one that I know you knew for years and years and years, Mike, like Jose Alcala, that whole crew that did SRAM NRS forever, and then they've been Look, and they've been under a couple different monikers over the years. But that group is shutting down for the year. They will not be providing any neutral support for 2023.
They look to do some restructuring, and hopefully it will reappear. But for now, like Rob said, for 2023.
See,
and it was not enough money.
Not enough money to run it.
They're still got and I don't know the financials of that kind of an organization, but they are paid by some races to provide support. They are also given money and equipment by different sponsors.
Advertising benefit.
There's a lot of advertising. I know Volvo has always been a part of it, and I don't know if they've donated cars or I don't know any of those specifics. But it's not a cheap program.
No, I mean when
you have to pay people's salaries
SRAM
too.
and Mavic and NRS. Who? Interesting. Sorry, I hadn't read this.
Well, over the years we've lost Mavic for a lot of reasons, but Mavic is no longer doing it. SRAM has backed out of this. This was never SRAM's support. SRAM was paying the NRS group to be branded as SRAM. So it was a separate entity. And I believe I'm correct on this, but if somebody knows better, by all means, and we know tons of people that know better, so just send me an email. Let me know. I can do a correction later. But NRS was their own entity. They paid their own bills. They did their own thing. And now they're gone. What we have left in the U.S. right now, to the best of my knowledge, is just Shimano. Shimano is the only group that's been providing neutral race support. But it kind of goes to say, I mean, NRS has changed over the years, in my opinion. Maybe I'm missing something, but for the most part, long gone are the days of NRS being able to jump out and do a quick wheel swap and be on the way.
I think they just put you on a bike now because there's no way that they can have wheels for all the different standards.
Yeah.
That very quickly
crazy.
became a thing when you had like 9 to 10 speed, Campy to Shimano. Like you had to specify when you came into neutral support, what do you have? 10 speed Campy, 9 speed Shimano.
Yeah, you had to specify when he came to.
And then
neutral.
when you did the bikes, everyone had different pedals. So it was like you had to do a pedal swap in the middle of doing a bike swap. Oh, you got looks on there, or we got we got to take those off.
Jump back into back in on flat pedals after the free lap.
Basically, what they do now is they'll just pop your pedals off your bike and throw them on whatever pit bike they have, or they'll have even flat pedals on a. For some
6'5" guy, all we have is a 52.
Yeah, so that's the downside to it, right? I remember when I first started racing, I had a very good friend who used to poke at me all the time about running Campy. We thought I should run Campy, and I'm like, no, because neutral support in racing. Hello, So now it's like it's bananas.
Yeah. So it kind of makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about the role that they're playing during the races anymore, but you always know that they were playing a role. It's changed. They're still providing mechanical support during races, not to mention if you got follow cars, if it's an actual road event or a circuit race or something like that, that's a huge thing to lose on the racing scene in the U.S. But, there were discussions immediately. There were people that were kind of messaging around going, hey, is this an opportunity? Is this the kind of thing that could grow into something at some point? Does this open a door for others? And it makes me question what the role of neutral support is in our current state of racing.
Well,
does there need to be neutral support?
How else do people fix their stuff in the middle of a race? So then it comes down to the races having to do it.
Team cars.
Yeah, but if you
got to have and
then you bring a spare bike or spare wheels, and you have a pit area where people put their own stuff.
I don't know if you've looked at any of the top tier criteriums in the U.S. lately, but when they get underway, and if you look at the pits, there is a whole line of mechanics and team managers and everything else standing by the side of it with bikes, wheels, and everything else. And they're the ones that jump in and help their riders anyway. You know, I'm not going to say that neutral support guys don't work. You know, I know them. They work hard. I've done it myself, but not at that level. You know,
well,
they're still fixing bikes for people and getting them all organized and working with the officials and getting them back in the race. I mean, I get that and I understand it, but if they aren't there,
not everybody in a pro race has
that kind of support.
That kind of support, yeah. So there's a lot of teams out there that rely very heavily on neutral support.
Yeah.
If they have it, certainly the amateurs do. Because how many people have a complete extra bike setup and everything? But yeah, so I really hope that Jose's always been a absolute amazing, well-run support system for neutral support. So I really hope that they restructure and keep doing what they do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got to see Jose at the bike swap a couple weeks ago. Talked to him briefly. Not a lot of information there along this line, but good to see him. And I always like to. I mean, it'd be great to get him on the podcast. To be honest with you, but somebody's got to reach out. I'm sure he's not watching it.
Can we go back to the?
Somebody's got to reach
neutral
out.
Support thing for a second. Like, were we just talking about the pro riders, or are we talking about like all riders, like at any race? Like I mean, NRS is there the whole day. So those guys are definitely working hard. Everyone's got all kinds of problems. Your cable's loose or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know, you borrow a wheel. I got a flat before the start. You know, or whatever. You know, like or something needs to be adjusted. Yeah. So what do you?
I have been in the position of doing NRS and doing NRS for. Can we call it a stage race? The old Illinois Galena kind of stuff.
Sure.
The stage race.
Sure.
There was a time trial. There was a crit. There was a road race.
Talking about Galena?
Yeah.
Did
I say Geneva?
You said,
I get
you
the
said
two
Illinois,
mixed.
and I'm like,
yeah,
what?
Illinois. That was what it was called the last year that they had it.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. They had. I did neutral support for that event more than once, I think, and I was the only one. I just came out on my own. Everybody else was like kind of racing this stuff. And I got to say, it's one of the few times that I've worked that hard. And it was just constant, you know, everybody showing up. And these are all amateurs. So it was everyone showing up. And it was just, hey, this is in the very early days of DI2. And I remember one rider coming up and going, hey, I got up here in my bike rack. Something moved and it cut the wire on my DI2. Do you have any wires? You know, it was, and at that point it was like, no.
So,
sorry,
Rob,
I think you're SOL, but we'll figure something out.
Were you paid to
do
that? Did the races pay for that? The sponsors, the SRAM, pay for that? Maybe pays for that? Who pays for that?
All right, listen. Here's a dirty little secret of mine. I have provided a hell of a lot of mechanical support for a lot of people over a lot of years, and I have not received one dime for any of it ever. I am the outlier, okay? Most people are paid to provide mechanical support, paid by the rider, paid by the organization, paid by whatever. Some could argue that I am part of the problem because I represent a free option to some organizations and, in effect, reduce the professional level of the profession, you know, because if I'm willing to do it for free, then it doesn't value the people that need to make a living doing it. So traditionally, mechanics are paid to do the work that they're doing. So it's not like they're coming out there, you know, because they love doing it. Somebody like me is, but the actual professionals are getting paid to do it. So sometimes that's the race organization that is having to pay it. Sometimes it is a parent sponsor of the NRS that is paying them to be there as a way of sponsoring the race, if that makes sense. So like back in the day, I don't know, there was I heard a story. There was this like group that was like red and white, and they used to pay a neutral race support to do a bunch of stuff. And that was the way that they mainly sponsored very large events, like in an area, say like Chicago. And then all of a sudden they just stopped supporting all local racing. They wanted to do fun stuff like go sailboat racing. And
I think I heard something about that.
Something about it. But after that, I mean, they basically just dropped off of the face of the planet. So that killed off the support of both the mechanics that were working there as well as the race itself. And another company, I think it was Blue, came in and took care of everything. But I don't know necessarily that they're stepping up on the money side of saying, in addition to what we're providing, we're going to give the race organization this amount of money. So that it leaves this kind of hole, you know, in the whole structure. In addition to the fact that the racers need it, the events need it. You know, is there, to go back to my earlier discussion of, is there an opportunity business-wise for somebody to step up and make maybe a smaller organization that's less professional to do it? I don't know enough about the economics of how it's actually done to be able to say whether or not that's a viable option, unless there was somebody willing to go into it and not.
Dude, it's an expensive job. If I was going to get paid to do that job, I would be charging quite a bit. You're servicing God knows what throughout the whole day. You have to be there early in the morning. You have to do there, depending on the weather. It could be in the rain. It could be in the cold. It could be, you know, who knows? It could be beautiful.
Often is.
I mean, it's got to. You know, if you want to have a professional service, it's got to be a professional service. And why would you want anything less than a professional service when you're doing bike safety? You know, and
well, and not only just. Yeah, but I mean, think about the expense that they have to
exactly
up front.
Fuel,
they
transportation,
have to have every
insurance,
different kind of brake pads, the parts that they have to have. You know, they have to have chains and parts for all the different range of equipment out there, so that they can.
And then you're dealing with people
stuff.
too.
So,
and then you're dealing with the people, the athletes that come up stressed out, ready to go 2 minutes before the start of the race. You know, and it's like I got to say that's the part of it that I absolutely it is fun.
love.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I thrive in that kind of environment where it's like, oh my God, Rob,
it's because someone's more stressed.
Everything blew up, and you know, do you know how many times I've had to ask the question, when is your race starting? Now, and they're usually like, they're lining up, and then it's like freaking game mode, man. The most fun I think I ever had was there was a gentleman came running in. It was at Monsters of the Midway. Came running into the tent and said, "It's not shifting. Can you look at this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I can take a look at it." And he's like, "Nick Ramirez is calling me. Hi, Nick. If you're watching this later." He came running in and was like, "Hey, it's not shifting. Can you take a look at this?" I throw it up. I kind of look at it. I'm like, "You need a new cable. You absolutely need a new cable. How much time do we have? When are you guys lining up?" He goes, "Oh, they're lining up right now." And it was like, it was a specialized, some model, all internal routing. And it was like, sure, let's go for it. Yank it out, start running a new enter, get it in through there. At one point, I had Dee Dee, who was our official, coming up, standing behind me as I'm freaking out, running this through. And I'm like, hey, it's one shot. Let's try to get it through the hole. Got through the hole in the first chance. But she kept sitting there on the back. Don't even. She kept sitting there behind us going, gentlemen, how much time do you need? And it was like, as much time as you can give me, you know, as I'm running everything and sweating and everything. She's like, I can give you about 3 minutes. And it was like, that's not going to work, but okay. And just getting through that. And I actually nailed it, got it done, shifted, and he made the start line. That, to me, is like winning a race. You know, I imagine, because I haven't won a race, so I don't know.
Did he?
But emotionally, you know, I don't think he did. Right. Great racer, though. Local guy. He was a junior at the time, Joe Sullivan, which was also interesting because at the time his dad owned a bike shop. But he came running up. His dad was there, too, and his dad was like, man, thanks. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. Loved it. And I kind of wish he still owned a bike shop, because if this little gig ever goes belly up, he's one guy I think I could have gone to and gone, hey, can I work for you? So fun stuff. No, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and I actually really thrive off of lots of very out there, no background. This is a problem. You need to fix it as quickly as possible.
Sounds like another business that you need to start, Rob, because you're.
But I agree. There is definitely room for that. But how many races are going on? How many races are going to pay for that? What's their budget to pay for it? Are sponsors paying for that team?
Right.
That team of mechanics to go that have the expertise to fix people's bikes, to have the people skills, to have the calmness in the heat of the battle.
Right. At the amateur level, no one is. If they are, it's usually if an amateur event has rudimentary NRS, it's somebody like me or a local bike shop that does it. Trade for a little bit of sponsorship.
People have their phones on them all the time. You're just like, hey, you want a service? Pay up.
Jose used to have a little bucket, pig,
the plastic pig
that was up in his area, and you could just go put tips in that. And then I think at some point they had a Venmo thing or something.
Yeah, but if people want service on the spot, instead of having the race pay for it or whatever, it's like, hey, there's service right here, but you got to pay for it. I mean, if
it adds a massive amount of quality to an event.
For
and the
sure.
bigger your event is, the
For
more
sure.
important it is
Neutral
to
support.
have really professional neutral support that actually knows what they're doing. Because there was a race, a rather well-known race somewhere in Tulsa.
Just say it.
That one year didn't have a top-notch outfit, and I heard nothing but complaints all weekend. People were pissed, and they rectified, I believe, that situation. So, I mean, it really matters. It really matters.
Well, at an event like that, though, they should have neutral support.
VeloFix is going to swoop right in here.
No, and to that point, and to Mike's point earlier, it takes a special individual to do that. Just because you can work on a bike and just because you're a mechanic, doesn't make you a race mechanic.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Hey.
True. I mean, if you're under the gun, you need to know. Not only that, dude, everyone's bikes are different and they're all high end. You're working on F1 cars.
Yeah.
If you can, dude.
Yeah.
Now it's even worse.
No, that's okay. Sorry. I mean, I was just gonna say, if you can route a cable in one shot, Rob, one and done, that's pretty good, dude. Especially internal routing, it's a pain in the ass.
I have a few victories like that for me personally, I derive great satisfaction from.
Now do it where it's routed through the stem and the head tube.
Dude, there was state championship cross race, I think, or I don't remember what it was, but it was. Help me out here.
What year? Let's go there.
I was in the pits with Anthony. It was for the men's 1, 2, 3. Help me out. This is that name recollection thing. I obviously know his name. Our rider that we sponsored that's from Green Bay.
Brian Motter.
No, not Motter.
It's not me.
Joe?
No.
Who am I thinking?
Oh God. I am so sorry if you're watching this. I apologize. But this is one of those name recollection things that I kind of burned out in
PJ?
No. I can't stand this because I can see his face, his family, everything. So, it's proper name recognition. Thanks, COVID. He ended up having a brake issue, hydraulic brake issue during the race, and we were able to secure syringes, tool. Dan Teeters, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much.
You're welcome, Dan.
I apologize, Dan. You can punch me in the gut next time you see me. He was bleeding during the race, and we were able to do a full brake bleed and get brake power back to him in half a lap, something like that. It was half a lap or within a lap. We did a full hydraulic brake bleed.
That's impressive,
and it was fun. It was fun because it was like one of these, like, he was pissed because he wasn't back on his A bike, I think, and it wasn't working right, and it was just like done. Got it back to him, and it was one of those moments where you're like, this is what I do. This is what I can do. So brake bleed, I know, running the damn cable in that damn Trek for Mark Nowak. Yeah, Jesus.
This goes all the way back to two derailleurs front chainring, double chainring, right? And then external routing. It was so easy. It was so easy.
They used to do a mechanics competition at Interbike. I was not there. I read
That was
about
cool.
it.
That was cool.
They used to do a mechanic competition, and they used to do a swapping cables, and they would time you. And I remember reading about the winner who did it in like 2 minutes and 20
Internal
seconds.
cables, internal,
Brand new.
external.
Yeah. That was back in the external days. And by God, I could have been in the running in the external days, but
But it's not aerodynamic to have all those cables sticking out.
I'll remember that when you're covered head to toe.
Just
in
drop
mud
your head
doing cross race.
into the pocket.
I'm sorry, what?
And on this topic, Mr. Jose Alcala, one of the most impressive things I ever saw him do was he swapped out an entire shifter mid-race at the national championships for Nicole Duke. Does that sound right?
It's impressive.
Who was on Raleigh at the time or was going to Raleigh. It was the national championships. It was during the race. It was up in Wisconsin in Verona when it was frozen over. It was a year you and I worked both elite pits. And he swapped an entire shifter, and it took him half a lap. Half a lap or a lap. He did it within 6 minutes.
Did he undo?
And
I was.
do
Did he
that
undo
now.
the shifter?
Tape and
No,
everything?
it was CX1. It was CX1. So, I mean, I don't know if it was a mechanical brake, but I want to say it was hydraulic because I was impressed with it going, how did you
Wait a
do
second.
that
Wait a second.
in
wait
that
a
amount
second,
of
wait a
time?
second. You're saying the whole lever.
He's calling bullshit.
The whole lever.
The whole lever. He left the clamp there. I believe we can ask him if we ever get a chance to
Okay.
get
No.
him
He took
on
it from the
show,
internal. Took the clamp. Took the lever from the clamp off the bar.
but it left the clamp and just unscrewed it, yanked it out, and put it back. I want to say it was mechanical because I just don't see the hose connections going that quickly. But mechanical, it was pulled it out and he ran the cable. It may not. I want to say maybe the brake wasn't hooked up.
So he left the
maybe
internal
only had
cable
one
through the
brake.
bar underneath the bar
But-
tape or whatever it was routed. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just run the
Mhm.
the
Through-
end.
Yep. Mhm.
I mean, it's all run.
Sure.
You can do it in 6 minutes, but he did it in 6 minutes and got her back into the race. And she was in contention running for, God, I want to say like second or third at the time. So, and she was able to come back to fourth. She dropped because her shifter stopped working. It froze up, I want to say. And he just went, boop, boop, put a new one in and saved a good race for her.
Well, there you go. The value of a good mechanic at, the intensity
Exactly.
of a race. And I have to say, I don't know the gentleman here. He's on my right. Who's in the studio with you guys?
That's
Barron.
That's Barron.
Oh, Barron.
Hey there.
Good, man. How are you? Sorry, I saw you on the text thread there. I've not been very responsive. I've had a crazy week so far. So nice to
worries.
meet you, man.
Likewise.
So, welcome to the organization that is the Road is Dead
Yeah,
podcast. Thanks for listening and joining us. Topic-wise, I think we've hit almost everything. We're almost at the end of our
Yeah.
time, I believe. But anything else major that we're not?
Just that new giant bike.
Oh, yeah. I
Oh.
do want to hit that.
Just keep it short and sweet.
The $9,000 one.
Yeah.
Did you see
Well,
that,
then
Barron?
you guys can talk about it. I won't keep it short.
No,
and
no,
sweet.
no. Go. You try.
What do you think about it, Barron?
Desperation.
Oh,
Just
nice
trying to be
word.
novel for the sake of being
I mean,
novel.
just yeah, exactly. But there are plenty of people out there who will buy it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is
Yeah.
the bike? We got to get the background for people that don't know.
It's a gravel bike, drop bar with front fork.
Yeah.
This is not
suspension.
new. This is
So-
not
Which
new.
is not a new thing.
No. It's actually a mountain bike with drop bars.
Basically,
It's not
it's a
It's a drop bar mountain bike.
Yeah.
If you look,
And
go
there
ahead.
there are events where I can see where something that
Nope.
specific maybe would be I don't know.
You know what's going to happen here? This is what's going to happen. Guys are going to ride this, but it calls for 40 millimeters. It allows 40 millimeters of front travel, right? Guys are going to put that at like 10, so it barely moves. You know why? Because they get a paycheck. I know
Yeah.
how that works.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
how that works.
Yeah, you don't need it.
But to Barron's point, it's available. People
Yeah.
will buy this
Yeah.
because it's focused on what the current
Well,
rage in
I'm
cycling
thinking
is.
about events like Schwamagon where it's traditionally a mountain bike event that, people are like, well, can't you do it with a cyclocross bike? And it's like,
but that's a
you need a little bit bigger tires and maybe just, exactly. Yeah. Okay. But lighter, but maybe lighter.
It's a lighter hardtail mountain bike. It's like a 90s cross country mountain bike that has drop bars on it. So, except for one other thing. Did you guys notice? I haven't heard anybody mention this yet. Anybody notice from about the top tube back anything? Like underneath where somebody sits?
What about?
It's a dropper post.
It's a freaking dropper.
Yeah.
It's got a dropper on it.
It's a mountain bike.
It's a gravel bike with a dropper.
Oh, it's a mountain bike with drop bars.
You know what?
One by with a huge ass cassette on the back. It's a freaking mountain bike.
Normally I would sit here and knock something like this. I'm tired of doing that. It's just going to keep happening.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. To each his own. There's people that are really going to enjoy riding a bike like this. But the one thing personally that I think it does is it takes a person's ability to control and ride a bike away from them. It's like, I'll equate it to you fly an airplane. You have no clue what you're doing. You press autopilot, the plane flies itself. Guess what? When autopilot dies and you have to learn how to fly a plane, you're probably going to crash. So if you take all the bells and whistles away from a person that's been riding a bike like this and put them on no dropper post, skinny tires, no suspension, and say,
cyclocross bike.
Yeah, go down the same trail you just went down at the same speed you went down. They're going to be like, no. And that's because they've been spending their life on a bike like this. And again, to each their own. I'm not knocking it. It's just not for me.
For me to take the side I don't normally take, to use your airplane analogy, that would be like saying, I don't want to teach somebody how to fly with modern avionics. They have to learn how to fly in a glider with no landing gear.
Right.
So that they understand the principles of flight. I mean, would that be nice? Yeah, that'd be nice, but somebody can be effectively taught how to fly with modern avionics.
Right. Conversely, if you took someone that knows how to handle their bike on a full rigid bike and said, here's something a little better for you, they could go exponentially faster.
And what they're going to do, though, is just dial it all out. And just,
okay.
They might.
Here's my contention, though.
Are you devil's advocating me?
I am. I think there are a lot of events out there where a mountain bike is overkill, but a gravel bike is a little underkill, especially big, long gravel races.
Long events,
where having suspension, having a dropper post, and having those things adds, it's not about control, it's not about bike handling, it's about the wear and tear on your body over a long event. I think you get a little bit of that suspension, a little bit of that stuff from the mountain bike that's going to help you out, but you're not going to lose too much with the big suspension and everything you're going to have on a mountain bike and the weight of a mountain bike. So I think it's this kind of like in the middle thing for those kinds of events. Personally, I think it's
like
it's a pretty.
I could see that. And there are Iceman professionals that have converted their bikes like this.
People have been trying to like jury rig their own thing like this. So now,
but the bottom line is a bike like this isn't fast.
I don't know. I disagree. This bike looks fun. I'm looking at the photo now. This thing looks awesome.
Yeah,
it's all the rider. Fun. Right? That's who's going to make it fast. That's why external cables don't matter. It's all about just going faster.
I do Schwamka on that. I would.
This is a sick bike.
I would enjoy riding that.
You can do it.
Okay, guys.
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
I'm a dick. I'm sorry.
No. But we were talking about this earlier. Your first instinct when you saw that was,
I don't think
it's a money grab.
Yeah.
They're just throwing something out there because it's trending and it's a money grab. And it got me thinking about this. I'm constantly going, oh, we've done that before. Oh, that's just like this. Well, it's just like that. But if we think back to when we did this before, it was in the 90s. It was lighter, hardtail, cross-country mountain bikes for racing. Those engineers that designed that, they're gone. They retired. They've moved on. And the people that are designing bikes now, honestly, are coming up with ideas like this because they see some sort of utilitarian usage in it. They think it's cool. They're bike enthusiasts. They're not doing it just so that their company has another bike to sell and it's a money grab. I think they honestly are approaching this with passion, and they think that that's where the opportunity is.
This is for the bike packer adventurist. in my opinion.
I mean,
At the end
Okay,
of the day,
yeah.
Giant is in the
I could
business
see
to
that
make
there.
money, right?
Yeah.
So to do that, they're going to build it and they will come, right? How am I
Bingo.
going
I don't
to
know.
sell a bike to a
I don't
person
think
that
it's-
has every bike out there? Create something incremental. It's not going to appeal to everybody.
I
but
just think that mountain bikes are
Right.
going to
No.
keep going in the direction of bigger, more travel suspension, bigger, and it's Emily is, so this I think it has a place.
So I could expect
Yeah.
you to roll one through the door in the next couple weeks.
I'll tell
I'd
you
ride
what.
it.
I think I met my quota of new bikes that I've
10 plus
bought.
one.
Rob, where'd you get this photo of this bike that you sent everybody? Whoever built it put the fork on backwards.
I don't know.
What?
Oh, sick!
Is it?
They've been doing that. They've been doing that with the crown on the
This
back.
is the
yeah, they
thing
put the
now.
crown
This
on
is
the
the
back
thing.
now.
They do that.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is
yeah.
this the thing?
Yeah.
It's designed. It's designed that way.
Well, this other
Believe it
image
or
I
not.
just pulled up shows the crown in the
don't-
front. I've never seen a crown in the back like that.
Yeah. So,
Well,
some
Neutral
forks
Race
are that way.
Support didn't build it. I don't know.
Otherwise, it would have been thrown together quickly and wouldn't work after the race.
I mean, it can't be on backwards because
Do we
the
have
brake would be
anything
on the right
else? Do we have
side.
anything else?
It's right.
It's not. Yeah, no,
What
it's
the
not.
fuck?
Some forks are that way now. I mean, I'm not on as much on the mountain bike side, so I really can't.
This is
tell
the
you
same fork.
what the reasoning was behind that when it went that way, but they do it that way now.
All right.
I've had to put a couple forks on that way and gone.
Maybe
whatever.
it's to quicken up the steering.
I mean, the angle would be
With the fork
different.
going
It
a
wouldn't
little bit
match up
more.
if the fork
Yeah.
the brake tags weren't on the right side. So it's got to be right.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're definitely designed that way. They're definitely designed that way.
It looks
It's
funny.
Not, it's not like they took a regular fork and just
It looks
flipped
funny.
around,
I'm not
you
okay
know.
with it.
Yeah.
So it's not cool now.
It's got a Walmart feel to it,
Looks fun.
like an
It
assembler.
just, just
messed
looks
up.
so off.
Shed
It looks
mud
backwards.
earlier.
It just looks backwards. Yeah. But hey,
Yeah.
there you go.
So looks funny, kind of like rearview mirrors. I mean,
Hey, so
Yeah.
useful. So useful.
Can't take that seriously.
Try it.
Whoa,
Try it.
whoa, that's
Try
cutting
it,
a little
try it.
deep.
Baron, do you have any rearview mirrors
On
on your helmet? Do you use any rearview
No.
mirrors and helmets and bars or anything like that?
No.
Why not?
my wife does.
No.
Dude,
She's cool. I can't say
I-
anything.
Because I don't know the backstory enough that I'm gonna.
I know. That's why I'm opening the door and hoping you're going to walk through it.
I actually thought about this a lot last weekend, and I missed the podcast last week because I was down in Atlanta, and I was thinking to myself, if I lived down there, I would absolutely want something to review, whether it's radar or a mirror or something, because of how the road layouts are down there.
the mirror is
Ooh,
rad.
yeah.
It's
It's not
so much
super-
more useful than you
yeah.
think it is. It looks silly. I compliment when I ride by. Nice mirror, looking good. Then I make sure I show them mine. You know, so you're not just like awkwardly saying,
Yeah.
so they don't think you're a jerk. It's like
Then you get the two ding from their bell. Ding,
I
ding.
just ordered a set of the flips for my glasses because I'm sick and tired of wearing these Oakleys. I used to have the prescription lenses, and I don't like contacts. They make me sleepy. So I'm going to have my glasses with the flips, and I am fucking fine with it. I'm going to look like that guy,
There
Johnny
you go.
Five from Short Circuit.
Do it.
Hey.
Do it.
That'd be
Don't
cool.
disassemble.
More input.
Yeah, real quick at the very end here.
Yeah,
exactly.
Do you all, when you are passing somebody in a public setting while riding, do you call out on your left? Do you call out passing? Do you ring a bell? Or what else do you do? Or do you not do anything?
Coming in hot.
Like it.
No, on
That's-
your left. On your left.
On your left?
On your left.
I will usually say passing and then on your left. I say passing first to get their attention and then say on their left.
Wow.
Because if I just say on your
Curious.
left, sometimes you catch them, they're not paying attention,
They
and they're
they
like,
swerve left.
wait, what? Somebody
So
said
many
something,
times.
and then they turn around and look. So
I-
I usually say something like passing on your left or coming up and passing on your left. I say a lot of words.
My name's
Yeah.
Leah. Here I come. I'm passing on your left.
Nice to meet
I try
you.
to, have a little,
Try the buffet.
sweetness
I
in
had
the
oatmeal for
voice.
breakfast.
I try not to sound like an asshole. When I'm
Oh,
coming
I
in.
totally do.
I've got an approach where if I have a head of steam and they are walking in one direction and don't look like they're going to be all of a sudden becoming erratic, I'm going to go by them without saying anything.
Yeah, because if you
Yeah.
if you
Saying
alert them,
something,
you'll scare the crap
It
out
usually scares them. And if they yell at you afterwards, who cares? You can't
I
hear them anyway.
teach.
I like a
Um,
bell
of them.
too.
It's true.
I like a bell.
Now I used to say on your left all the time. And what I found was that you have all sorts of reactions. You got people that hear left and they go left. You have people that freak out. You have people that don't hear it anyway and don't do anything. What I found was using a bell, if you just ring a bell, it is universal. Yeah. Everyone knows exactly what it means, and they just intuitively kind of move over. Yep. You don't have to say anything. It doesn't shock them or surprise them. And we deal with we have a multicultural area in our area, and there's a lot of languages spoken, and not all of them are English. You know what I mean? So when you ring a bell, it transcends that language barrier. So if I yell out, on your left, and they don't understand on your left, and it's a confusing phrase if you've never heard it before, it's a recipe for disaster. So
that's interesting. That's really interesting. I just, you taught me something because I never really thought about. You're right. People's reaction when you say passing on the left or on the left, they can move left. And like I always teach my kids, if they don't have a bell, you say passing your left, but you say it's super friendly. I always like being friendly, even with my bell ringing. If you can be too aggressive with the bell, it's too authoritative. It's like honking the horn.
Not me.
You can. It's a. Like friendliness goes so far, regardless of language barrier. And the bell.
I always did a double
bell.
Tap. I did a double tap on the bell. I had one of those little Invisibells that you can't really even tell it's a bell because I would have it on my road bike, and I think I rolled up next to probably like in some women's pro field at Tour of America's Dairyland, and I go ding ding, and everybody just looked at me, and I'm like, hi.
Start line of any race.
Ben, you guys are far nicer than I am. I wait till I'm like 10 feet away and I scream at them just so they jump 3 feet off the ground. Yeah. And then like it happens where they do swerve left of me and I have to swerve, and then I spend the next 500 meters screaming out expletives at them.
Yeah.
And maybe even dropping a middle finger.
Well. Bell works well.
So maybe I did learn something here.
I've got a few.
Don't
you have the Invisibel. I have the Incredibells.
I got a set of bells.
A bell manufacturer should come up with something that isn't, a play on words or a little bit of pun.
I think communication goes a long ways. I mean, communication's important.
Oh, for sure.
Regardless of,
Yeah, totally.
In all aspects of life. Speaking of which, so that brings another episode to a conclusion. See how I did there? If you notice, we've been using these little Road is Dead mugs, coffee mugs. They're going to be some of this. The kids call it merch, I think. So if you're interested in some, send me an email to roadisdead@gmail.com.
Thanks to Julie.
Julie, my wife, Julie,
Shout out, Julie.
Our designer that was on that is Mr. Andy Sauter. He helped come up with that logo. The new one, if you are an old listener and you were like, hey, what changed? And we're going to get some stickers. We'll probably get some jackets, hats, whatever, and some coffee mugs, of course, that you can fill with 11 Jackson coffee, available through Simon. Give us a call or go ahead and send us an email. We'll get you hooked up.
And next time,
subscribe.
Time I'll sell my mug in the background too. We'll do a mug sale.
There you go. Absolutely.
Love it.
Peddling Minds mugs for sure. And like and subscribe. If you listen to us, maybe go out and check the video version on YouTube. Please do follow it, like it, whatever. We need subscribers for that.
I always hate saying that shit. So, please subscribe to this shit.
Yeah.
Fuck that. If you're going to fucking listen to it, fucking follow. Grovel for these people.
Mike. How's that New Year's resolution?
That's the first swear word. Listen, I just hate asking people to like our shit. It's just like, look.
I think this is reverse psychology right now.
It's part of the. It's part of the society.
Yeah,
now, it's just it's what you got to do. And it does mean something. It does mean something. It does make a difference. I know it's annoying.
That is true. So, if people want to, it is up to us to say compelling shit and have something that's interesting that people want to listen to. Otherwise, why would you follow it? It's like unfollowing an email, that you didn't subscribe to. You know what I mean? Subscribe if you want.
That explains a lot.
So if you listen to our banter, follow. Yeah, like it. Subscribe to it. It's awesome.
Right. Thank you for joining us today, Barron.
Yeah, Barron, it's been good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for being back, Barron. Good to have you. And apart from that, if you have any questions or anything, send them to roadisdead@gmail.com. Apart from that, enjoy the ride.